Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, back with another patch post-mortem where we talk about what worked, what didn't, and what we did right and wrong and all that fun stuff. And this week's guest, I am joined by Dishsoap. How you doing?
Doing good, Mort. Feels good to be on here.
Nice.
I've pretty much watched like all of these you made, so
Cool.
cool to be
Well,
part of it.
glad to have you. Because what rank are you at right now? I don't know what you're at.
Pretty sure like rank 2 or something.
Rank 2? All right. Yeah, you usually fluctuate between rank 2 and rank 1 on NA, so yeah. Cool. Well, so this is the patch 13.1c. This was a case where we couldn't do a 13.2, which meant a bunch of changes we didn't want to do, and we had some limitations with file uploads. But we did the best we could with the information we had, and it seems like we're actually in an okay spot. Like the meta seems decent. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like the best patch we've had by far.
Nice.
Just like balance wise.
Nice.
So it's really good you guys could do that on like a C patch that was like kind of awkward to ship out, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely take that as a win. Now, that being said, just because it's a good patch doesn't mean everything was perfect. So let's dive in and see what worked and what didn't. So, jumping right into traits, the admin mana nerf and the admin gold nerf. So the mana nerf was definitely necessary. I know a lot of people, especially in Lobby 2, were like, this might be the most busted thing that has ever been in TFT. It was pretty absurd, right?
Yeah, I won final game of the tournament with that.
Nice, nice. So that nerf is it? How is it now? Would you say?
I feel like it's like a good admin. I don't think it needs to nerf like any further, but it's definitely one of like it's still one of the better ones, even after like the big nerf.
Nice. That's good to see. And then the gold nerf, this one was probably too minor. My read on this is like this could go even further to like 25%. But it is nice to have a really fun gold drop augment. Like it's just fun, but it might still be a little strong.
Yeah, this one is ridiculous if you get it early.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so still room to go there. So Aegis. We buffed Aegis 345 under the assumption that like most people didn't care about the trait, they were just playing the strong units. I think this might have been a mistake. It might have been correct to just do maybe 4-5 or even just 5. Because what I'm noticing now is a lot of the AP comps are suffering in the late game just a little. It's like just a nudge. And like if 4 Aegis had been 55 or 50, that might have been better. That's my read on it. What do you think?
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, especially since like after like Mecha nerf, people like started to would gravitate towards like Aegis anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like buffing it is like probably wasn't that necessary. And I do kind of agree that like the AP comps are like on average are just struggling a little more to the AD comps, and this might be like a reason for it.
Yeah, it feels like just late game, they just a little, like I said, if this had been 55, 35 and 55, we might have been okay. I feel like 5 Aegis, though, this was still correct because, like, the payoff for the emblem and playing them all feels correct. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I think the 5 is fine. I don't even remember the last time I've seen 5, so.
Makes sense. Cool. Brawler 8 buff. This was under the small part of the notes, and, like, it was small. It didn't do much, and I don't think anybody's playing 8 Brawler, but it seems like it was directionally fine.
Oh, I actually played a April game recently. It was not like that bad, but definitely not anywhere near as good as it was.
Yeah. So generally directionally correct, but didn't really move anything.
Yeah.
Cool. Duelist. This is one that like I've been saying for a while, long term, that Duelist needs to like have some sort of adjustment because Duelist still has the same track where like it's really good stage 2, 3, and 4, and then for the players that like, especially at our lower skill level, that they just stick with it, it falls off a cliff. I think a lot of our higher skilled players know how to transition out of it. But for lower skill players, like you can't actually invest in Duelist. So, but I think for now it seems to be okay, and at least it's not as oppressive as it was. So I don't know. My read is that this was good and wasn't too overkill.
Yeah, I think this one was fine. Duels are still very powerful, like stage 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Obviously fall off, but like I don't really know if there's like a way to make it a consistent way for the duels to win without like just overbuffing in the mid game.
Yeah, I mean, there's aggressive things that I would call inelegant, right? Like, for example, imagine if the amount of attack speed scaled per stage level, for example. It's like there are solutions, but like we're starting to get to that point where a number change isn't going to fix anything. So
Yeah.
cool. Okay. Oh, this one, laser core. So the 3 was the intended number, and I think 3 laser core is actually still a little strong. This might have supposed to have been 55. The 6 laser core, the intended number was 150, but due to an error, shipped at 160. So shocking, it was too strong at 160 and is still too good. But there is a world where I think even 150 might not have been enough. I think the thing is though, like trying to like slowly graduate. I'd rather this than we over nerf it, but it clearly wasn't enough. Well, especially because the 160 wasn't enough. But even 150 might not have been enough. That's my read.
Oh, I don't know if 150 is like not enough or like too much or whatever, but yeah, it's definitely 160 is too much for sure.
Yeah, I mean, laser core seems like the really easy to play comp right now.
Yeah, and it's actually easier to win games with duelists because it's like pretty easy to just keep the 6 laser core, go 9 if you're in a good spot, and then just put in all the 5 costs.
Hmm.
But
Makes
yeah, it's
sense.
definitely like super, super strong right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Mascot. This is a buff I would say directionally correct, not enough. Nobody's playing 4 and 6 mascot. Still more work to do is my thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really don't see. I cannot remember the last time I've seen 6 mascots.
Okay. So still work to do there. I think mascot really suffered when Galio got hit. Like that was really the crux of
Sure.
it. Spellslinger. I think this buff was just a success. I think Spellslingers are back in the meta. We talked about it a little bit where AP's a little weak, but like this buff was correct. So I don't know. Spellslinger actually feels like where it's supposed to be right now. Is my thought.
Yeah, I don't think you should adjust the trade anymore.
Yeah.
The thing is with like Talia is
Yeah.
like if she's not one-shotting the backline, like actually just one-shotting it, then
Yeah.
you're just gonna take like bad losses. So
Yeah.
like
I was talking to someone about this recently, and Yumi's the best example of this, right? If Yumi one shots the champion, great. If Yumi does 98% of their health, it may as well say 50%. It's like the fact that she has to cast twice, and it's so interesting that AP champions live on that like threshold of kill or don't, because again, having to cast twice as much is just it is what it is, and so it's really interesting to think about. And but yeah, TLDR, I agree with you. Spellslinger's probably fine.
yeah.
Cool. Sure Shot. This nerf was needed by like holy crap. 2 Sure Shot was really OP. And I think like this is a big nerf, 20% on the trait, and it's still really good. So clearly correct. There is a world where it's supposed to be 7. I'm not planning on changing it anytime soon, but like it's still really good.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to nerf 2 sure shot like immediately. I think a lot of that is just Aphelios being like super powerful, but
Yeah, yeah. Which we'll
I
t-
I, I
go
will
ahead.
say that I've seen a 4 sure shot do like super well still.
Yeah,
So the trade is like still definitely really good.
yeah. Which that's the good thing, right? And like we'll talk about Aphelios later, but like hearing Aphelios do great, no problem. It was more like the early game actually. Like 2 Sure Shot early with those slow fights was a lot of power, and so I don't know. It feels like it's about right now, and so I'm definitely happy with this nerf.
A good change.
Cool. All right, on to champions. Ash. I think with the laser core nerf happening the way it did, I think this change ended up being bad. But I think when laser core is balanced, this change will finally be correct. I don't know about you. I haven't had enough chance to try this, but like, are you happy to find an Ash 2 in the early game, really? Without laser core?
Not really.
Yeah.
I feel like even with laser core, like she's just a trait bot. Like even like upgraded and itemized, she doesn't feel
Yeah.
that good. Like I'd rather just like itemize like honestly, Kale isn't even that good, but I would rather just itemize a Kale with like duels with the Yasuo
Yeah.
or the Ashe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's not where we want Ash. So if that's still the case, then I would call this directionally correct, but not enough. And so future patches, we may have to slowly nudge Ash up as laser core gets fixed. Cool. Gangplank. I think this change was good. I think Gangplank, the champion, might be correct now. He's mostly supposed to be a bot without his augment, and he kind of is. He does some okay damage, especially in the early game. I don't know. I think GP might finally be right where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, I like this change.
Cool.
I don't. Did you change the augment in this patch? I don't remember.
I don't think so. Or yeah, we'll get to that later. But
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, so champion, you're pretty happy with the champ.
Yeah. Feels
Cool,
good.
cool.
Good AP item holder.
Yeah,
Decent single target.
nice. Lulu. This was a bigger buff, and I was admittedly a little nervous about this, but from everything I can tell, this was just like good. It seems like now there's an AP carrier in the early game that you're okay with, and you get out of it at stage 3, and that's a 1 cost.
Yeah, like this change a lot. I think before this change, like holding AP items early game was like really awkward because like Lux and Lulu were both like
Yep,
pretty underwhelming early. So you're just kind of praying to get like a early LeBlanc or Zoe or something.
yep.
So I really like this change a lot.
I think that's a great call out too. Sometimes we don't talk about the things that aren't on the patch notes. I think Lux should have been. I think Lux should have been on the patch notes. I think Lux is like the one cost you get a 2-star. You're like, I guess if I have to. So
Yeah, I think Lux's damage is like okay, but the problem is that if you don't have like a really good front line, what'll happen is like their units will just
yep.
walk forward and you'll just miss.
Yeah, the delay is painful on that spell. So cool. Wukong. I think this change was a slam dunk. It was a very light nerf. Mostly hit Wukong 3 that secretly was kind of overperforming. And I think it's all still fine. I don't know. I think this nerf was good.
Yeah, I was actually calling for a Wukong nerf because I was scared of this. I was having a lot of success with just rolling Wukong 3 and just going like fast 9.
Yep.
But yeah, he's definitely still good. Just I like this change a lot.
Good. Good. Cool. On to tier 2. Ezreal. I think this change was fine. Again, Ezreal's one of those champs that like does okay. He's actually got a lot of power with that the attack speed slow, so it's like not that bad in a recon comp. But if you get the augment, like there's some pretty good augment comps too that work really well. So again, Ezreal finally feels like I think where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, I like Israel. Doesn't feel he feels like in a good spot.
Cool. Fiora, we buffed the 3-star armor, or excuse me, the 3-star on hit. I think this is fine. Fiora still feels like this champion though that like you're never super excited by. You're just like, I guess I'm playing Duelist and like I'm glad to have her, but like she's never the star.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she like doesn't do enough damage and isn't tanky enough.
Yeah.
So like I don't really know what to like make of her besides just like sometimes just out healing in the early game, but
Yeah.
never really impressed by her towards the mid game.
Yeah, and that's where it feels like we are with some of these champions like Lux, Lulu, and Fiora is like balance wise, they might actually be correct where they're supposed to be, Fiora relative to the rest of duelists and things, but the power isn't put in a way that leaves them in a satisfying place, right? We can't just buff Fiora and then duelists get better, but maybe what's supposed to happen is power has to come from elsewhere, maybe something like Yasuo or whatever, so that Fiora can be the star, but that's a lot more complex and ends up like making players get whiplash a little bit. So, but yeah, I think Fiora right now is just not one of the fun champs, is what I'd say.
So she's just like meant to be like a tank, right?
Yeah, she's
Kind of.
supposed to be the duelist frontline champ. Like, right, you put,
Got it.
Gargoyle plus Warmogs, and then the fact that she's got that duelist auto attack, she's healing a bunch of high effective health, and like that was supposed to be her role.
Yeah. I just feels like she just worse it up than Neela, I guess.
Yeah,
So just kind of an awkward spot.
yeah, I would agree with that. Cool. Lee Sin. So I think the armor and magic resist change was good. It makes Lee Sin like an okay item holder in the early. I think this spell is so bad though that like you don't even notice that he does damage. It exists, and so this buff is like it existed, but who cares? And so it's fine, but it didn't do anything. You're not gonna play AD Lee Sin. That's never happening. I think this in conjunction with the augment buff, which we'll talk about later, might have been too dangerous, but data-wise, it looks fine. So I'm going to call the armor and MR a win, and I'm going to call the AD fine, but who cares?
Yeah, I agree with that perfectly. I do not notice this Lee Sin doing any damage ever, but
Yeah,
he's pretty tanky, so it's fine.
cool. Rel, I think this was another fine buff. Rel's another champion, much like Fiora, that just like is in an awkward spot where too much of the power budget is in the damage. And so like she doesn't actually end up that tanky. She's mostly relying on defender. So it's fine, but without a spell redesign, like I think Rel's always going to be doomed to like a bot or a stage 2-3 that you get out of.
Yeah. I think I mean I've seen her do really well at like 3-star in the Neela Yumi comp, but
Yep.
I don't really know if that's like her. Like
I must
I
say
think it's
that feels
definitely
more like Neela, right? It's like
yeah,
Star
for
Guardian
sure.
and Neela, so cool. All right, Yumi. So I know I had a lot of haters that were very mad at me that Yumi was back in the meta with the Yumi Neela comp and like, oh, you brought this cat back. But the reality is, our goal is to make as many things playable as possible. And I think this was the exact right amount of buff. It was like just enough. I would not touch this champion anymore.
Oh, I don't even think like this really did that much. Like this Yumi buff in particular did that
Yep,
much to make that comp stronger. Like people call it a Yumi comp, but it is we
it's a
should really be
Neela
calling it
comp.
a Neela comp. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So I actually like this buff.
Yeah, I think I was
Like
actually watching one of your games where you like managed to come back with like 8 health on a Neela comp, and it was like the second you hit the Neela 3, it was like, oh, that's where all the power is, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah, people are doing stuff like they'll have like 2 tiers, but they won't even slam blue buff on Yumi. They'll save it for like Redemption Neela.
yeah, yeah, which is a good thing, right? The 3 cost is more important than the 2 cost. Like we take those, so yeah. Okay, here's an interesting one, Zoe. So I think when we first published the patch notes, there were a lot of people that were like, Zoe's wildly OP now. It's a Zoe meta. Zoe, 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 Zoe. I think from what we've seen, this buff is just correct. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, this buff was fine. I don't really understand people that were saying that in like the first place, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if like Zoe's even like that good right now. She's like okay.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a blue buff Zoe in stage 2 is great,
Mhm.
but by stage 4, it's like she's too slow. She can't really dish out the damage to end combats quick enough. It's like that's been my read. I'm a big Zoe fan. I want the blue buff Gunblade Zoe to be a thing. It isn't because combats just seem too fast in the late game.
Well, I don't know if it's too fast, but I think she actually does like really badly with Gunblade in meta. I think Gunblade kind of counters her.
Yeah, that's true.
So like stuff
That's true.
like Gunblade Bel'Veth, like it's just like a terror matchup for her. Like she's gonna have a really hard time dealing with that.
That's true. Yeah, because she can't. Her damage is so slow. You don't get the burst. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, and like mech, obviously the patch before that was set. She's terrible into the mech matchup. So yeah, that makes sense. So okay, so TLDR, we agree though that this buff was fine and good.
Yeah,
Cool.
good buff.
Aurelion Soul. This is another one like tiny buff, but I think was correct. Aurelion Soul is a desirable unit now. Cool.
Yeah, Isol might be like my favorite unit in the game. So any buff that makes me want to play him is a good change.
So hard question: is he strong, weak, or just right now?
He's just right.
All right, all right, I'll take it. Bel'Veth. So obviously we got Bel'Veth from who gives a crap past stage 3 to actually a playable carry. So that's a good thing. I think from what I've seen, this number should have been 70. That's the one thing I'll say is like I think it was a tiny bit of an overshot for a threat to be this good with no traits. So 70, 70, 200 is my read on this, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, I don't really know how that math works out, but I feel like she is definitely too strong right now.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of the time it's correct to carry like a Bel'Veth over like a Samira 2 with 2 sure shot or
Oof.
like a Zed and like 6 laser core.
Yeah, so that's
Um
that's clearly incorrect, right? Like we don't want a
yeah.
traitless unit to be better than a fully traded unit. Like I have no problem if Bel'Veth is better than like a 2 duelist 3 laser core Zed, but when you're telling me a 6 duelist Zed is worse,
Mm,
that's a little scary.
well, I don't know if, I don't know if it's better than 6 duelists, but I mean I when you have a dual spat, usually Bel'Veth does more damage with dual spat than Zed.
Oh,
That's what I will say.
well, that's not the worst. Yeah, that's interesting. So
Yeah, I mean I don't know where the numbers are, but she
yeah,
definitely feels a little overtuned right now.
yeah, okay. So TLDR, we both agree, probably a tiny bit of an overshot, but nice to have her be playable. All right, so you and I read a lot of Aniko's comments, so I'm curious. I'm going to let you go first on this one. Misfortune nerf. Was this correct or not?
I mean, I don't really think it is. MF didn't feel that good to me last patch. Like I feel like the strength in her was just like the mech frontline stalling for forever. And I really don't think this nerf was needed after like the set nerf. I feel like she's like very underwhelming right now. I'm not really that excited to get an early MF. But yeah, that's just my
No,
opinion.
it makes sense. So I kind of agree. I think MF is probably the champion that I see the most elo divide on. I see a lot of gold plat players that are like MF is still too strong. MF is like, which is bonkers. And then meanwhile, I've got like a Nico and other challenger players down my throat going Misfortune's useless. I think if I were going back and doing it again, I would only do the subsequent bullet nerf here so that she couldn't quite shotgun people as hard, but the spread would be higher. And I think that would be correct. I think data also supports that this nerf was incorrect. Again, as an elo spread, right? Because like at the challenger level, I think this nerf was incorrect. If I were balancing around gold, I think it's just fine. Like Anima and Misfortune do very well, but that's not how we balance. And so yeah, I think this ended up being too far and was baited by the 4 ace and the set stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this could be fine if like Anima was a little bit better, but
Yep.
I think yeah, I'm not really that excited to play Anima a lot of the time. So
Yeah. Spoilers, next patch, we're buffing Anima 5 and 7, not Misfortune. So we'll see how that plays out and can go from there. So cool. Samira. So I was nervous about this. Well, first off, there was supposed to come with the bug fix that unfortunately didn't get out due to the whole patch limitation thing. It'll be out next patch, so that was unfortunate. But I was pretty nervous about this because Samira was actually the big part of the power, and we'd also nerfed the sure shot. So the 2 sure shot nerf on top of this had me a little nervous, but I think it's worked out. I think again, relative to Belveth, she might seem weak, but it's more that Belveth is a little too strong, not that Samira's too weak, and Samira's actually correct, is my read.
yeah, she feels fine, but I'm not gonna lie. I think a lot of the time, Aphelios 1 is better than Samira 2 now.
Ooh, interesting.
So, but like, I mean, she doesn't feel that bad. Like, if you have a two, like a 3 item Samira 2, she doesn't feel that bad. Like, you can definitely still like top 4, top 3 with her with a good enough setup. But
Interesting. I want to dig it.
uh,
So you would rather have an Aphelios 1 than Samira 2. And it's not. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to understand so I know where to go here. That's interesting.
yeah, I feel like a lot of time I would yes.
Is there like what makes that the case?
Oh, I just think like if you have like some kind of duo carry setup, like an Asol or just like another just some itemless Samira 2, just
Mm-hmm.
having like the blue gun just AoE everything down even at 1 star and have like everything else clean up is just so strong.
Gotcha. So it's more about the blue gun power currently on Aphelios. So like if you switch that to
Yeah.
red gun, is that still true?
Oh no, not
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
Not at
Cool.
all.
Well, I guess spoilers for the Aphelios section. So duly noted. Okay. Sejuani buff. So again, to me, this is if the laser core had been correct, this is correct. Without the laser core, this feels incorrect. But I think Sejuani needed this, and I'm happy Sejuani is healthier, so I'm going to call this a win.
Yeah. The amount of times like a Sedge one would not even cast in like early stage 3 is actually ridiculous.
Yeah,
So I think it's a good buff.
cool.
But obviously definitely kind of good right now with the
With
laser
laser
core not
core,
being nerfed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Set. So this is one where I'll be honest with you. This was a patch limitation thing, right? The nerf I actually wanted to do, which I don't know if it's correct, was I wanted to lower the HP gain on mech from 100% to 90%. That was the change I was planning because it was going to hit Wukong, Set, and Draven. But I couldn't do that because of the file limitation. So, but I had to hit Set somehow. So I went with the mana change. Now, from what I can tell, though, it actually kind of worked out. Like, Set is still good, as he should be, but he's not the end all be all. And, like, cool, we actually have a cool frontline Set tank, and, like, this might actually be fine. So,
So when you were thinking about like these two nerfs, which one do you think was the bigger one?
so I thought the HP one was the bigger nerf.
Okay.
The idea was he just had less total effective health. He wouldn't be able to use, like, Redemption and Dragon Claw as well. And so that would lead to less casts, and you'd actually be able to take him down. Um, didn't have the option, so I went with he can just shield himself less. But like I said, it was what I could do. Because the other thing with this nerf is it also nerfs Set without mech, which I don't think needs a nerf. It's a terrible champion, and no one ever plays it. But this is what I had, and so. But again, I think it worked out. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should be touched any further, but
Yeah, yeah.
like I would say like honestly like he might be like a little under underpowered,
Ooh.
like very slightly.
Okay.
Um, but that might just be like a meta thing. Like maybe he's still like good for like low elo, but like from what I can tell, like he's like definitely a lot worse than he was last patch.
Yeah. Which, if anything, the meta shift of just like give people a break from set a little bit sometimes can be healthy. So, yeah, the good news is there's no nerfs coming for set or anything like that. Like, we did one, it's in. So, okay, Viego. I think this nerf was fine. Although I'll be honest, I haven't seen as much Renegade. But you tell me, how's Renegade doing right now?
Okay, it's pretty good, but there's this one really annoying bug where Viego just like loses his cast,
Yep.
and it happens like one in every like 3 or 4
Yep.
fights.
Yep.
And like honestly, without that bug, like he might just be broken. But you just lose so many random fights late game that like it feels kind of bad to run him sometimes. But I still think he's good. Like Renegades and Octforce are good.
Well, good news. That
But
bug is fixed next patch. Um,
well,
so we'll see. So TLDR, then it sounds like, assuming the bug didn't exist and you saying he might be broken, that this was actually correct because it brings him down to the power level he should be. So
yeah,
cool. Zed buff. This was meant to be a very minor Zed buff, and I think it was. I think Zed's still a very good character. He has the same problem Duelist does. Very good early, falls off late. This didn't change anything, but I think it was a healthy buff.
yeah. I think like all my law chests, I have like 10 games of Zed, like 90% or 90% top 4 rate, 0% win
Yep.
rate.
Yep. That sounds like Zed, right? Like average
Yeah.
finish really high, top wins very low. That's Zed. Both his traits lean into that too, because laser core is flat damage, duelist requires longer fights. Like both his traits push him into that role. So yeah, cool. Okay, Aphelios. So we talked about this a little bit. So spoilers. It sounds like the good news is Aphelios is better than Samira, which was the goal. But it also sounds like the blue buff in particular was an overbuff.
Yeah. I think like right now, like the case is like even without items, you just do blue gun. Like with items, blue gun, without items, blue gun.
Yeah.
Against single target blue gun, against AoE blue gun, it's just always blue gun.
Yeah, I was watching Raditz getting coached by Soju today, and I noticed Raditz did this thing where he bought an Aphelios, threw it in, and without thinking, just slammed the blue, which is definitely different, at least, than slamming purple every time, but it should be something you at least have a decision about. So yeah, looking at these notes, it seems like the big thing I would call out is the AD percent going from 225 to 275 was probably too big a swing. 250 might have been a better take it slow and not overbuff this champion. I do think the increased cone radius was worth it though, and makes it feel a lot better. Any objections to that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and
Just
then oh, go ahead.
just like slightly lower numbers, I guess.
Yep, yep. And then the other thing I'll call out is it sounds like red buff should have gotten a slight buff, because the fact that, again, people should want to play red to like really take down a key target, and that's just not happening. It seems like.
Yeah, I keep on baiting myself to think that like I should like play red gun to like kill this like hacker Zed or like this Camille, but it never works out.
Yep.
I'm always sad.
Yep. Yeah, I almost wonder if like the blue buff literally should have just been on the red buff instead. The blue should have just been the base damage and the spread, and that might have been enough. But the base
Yeah,
AD was good though.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Nunu armor and MR buff. It was tiny, but it was helpful. He's not quite. I think this could have been 65 pretty safely. I do think sometimes Nunu 1 especially just kind of dies. There are some great Nunu 2 builds, but they're way too hard to pull off right now, I think.
Yeah, like it's so hard to get a read on Nunu because like a lot of what he's doing is actually just weird targeting shenanigans.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not the best 5 cost, I'd say.
Yeah. I think part of this too was that, again, we had set up the patch ready for the Gadgetine rework. And so we really didn't want to overbuff Nunu and have a 5 Gadgetine Nunu meta get out of control. So we were kind of in the setup phase for that. So, because next patch Gadgetine's getting reworked. So yeah. Okay, hero augments. I'm gonna go pretty quick, and you can just talk if anything comes up. But the Ash support one getting nerfed seems good.
Yeah, good. Still very good.
Yep. The Galio carry one getting buffed. Good buff, not enough. No one ever wants to play this augment.
Yeah, never seen that in a while.
Yep. Talon nerf, correct. Pretty happy with this.
Yep, good nerf.
Wukong nerf, I would call this uneventful. Like, it's fine, but it didn't change anything. And basically, this entire augment is like, is Talia viable?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like the effect is still good, it's just not the meta for it.
Yep. Oh, here's a good one. Endless Pizza. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I mean, my take on Endless Pizza was that it is actually not that good if you're not playing mech.
Yep.
So like the value, like obviously I think I needed a nerf, just like it was too good with mech.
Yep.
But honestly right now like with like mech being like maybe like slightly below optimal, this feels like balanced. So
Cool. I'll take it. I mean, that's the goal, right? I saw someone saying with the 4 rerolls, they're just going to force Endless Pizza every game. And I'm like, okay. I, I don't think
yeah,
that's a problem. So,
yeah, I think in the data it's like average or something. So
yep. Okay, here's one, though. The Lee Sin buff. So, there was a fun Twitter exchange where someone's like, oh my God, this Lee Sin is out of control because the cap on this augment is insane. Like, it is actually insane. You get a Lee Sin 3 with 3 tank items. That thing does not die. But data-wise, it looks balanced. So it's a very interesting, like, floor-ceiling situation. You could maybe convince me this was supposed to be 16, not 18. I know some people like Gun may feel strongly that, like, it shouldn't have even been buffed at all. I'm calling this a success, though. But again, like, maybe it's supposed to be 16.
yeah, I mean I don't know. I like that it like encourages people to play stuff like heart builds
Yep.
and put take items on Lisa, and like I think it's good to encourage people to do that. Like definitely the cap on this is kind of insane,
Whew.
but
Yeah.
like I I don't know if I agree that it's like so broken you just insta take it because I know some people have that opinion. I don't think I do, but
I feel like you
uh,
really need the right items to make sure it works because someone else was saying like as soon as he gets stunned, he just kind of falls over, and I've definitely seen that also, right? Like there are some fights where
yeah,
he'll tank forever, and there's some fights where he'll get sedged ult and bye, he's dead.
yeah.
So
And then like you need like armor, MR, and you need like base HP if you're not running a 3-star Lisa,
yep,
and then like it's kind of hard to get everything. So
right. Then you want redemption, but you can't have
yeah,
that, and yep, exactly. Cool.
so yeah, I honestly feel like it's fine. Like maybe you have to nerf it if it's actually broken next patch, but I don't know. I think it's fine.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's possible there's a world where like if you have the items for it and then you can 4 reroll for it at 3-2, that maybe it starts to become a problem. So we'll keep an eye on it. All right, Yasuo. I think this was a fine buff. I mean, again, laser core's a little strong, so it probably looks inflated in the data because laser core is strong. But I think the augment itself is actually fine now.
Yeah, I mean honestly, I don't even think it is, but let me check.
We're checking. We're checking.
Oh, it's actually doing pretty bad, but
Oh, well then.
yeah, I mean I feel like that's just a product of like meta shift. I don't know what the meta was when it was good because it was like just one-shotting boards, but
Well, I think it
now
was Super's reroll Yasuo.
oh yeah. Yeah,
So
I guess the super's nerf. He's not really one-shotting stuff anymore, so
yep,
but I mean I feel like it's in like a fine spot now. I think that comp was honestly pretty toxic.
yep,
So
agree.
I think it's
Uh,
fine.
Cho'Gath. I think this augment was like fine. I think no one's playing Cho'Gath carry. I think if we're ever gonna make Cho'Gath carry work with this augment, it might just need to get reworked. Because again, I know everyone has this dream of like the Dragon Claw Aegis Cho'Gath with this augment, and until that works, we're not doing our job. So I think this
Oh,
was a band-aid fix, but it's not enough.
oh, I actually think this one's like kind of underrated.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, like you don't build MR with it, right? You just build like
Right.
BT and like Bramble.
Right, you just build like normal tank, make up for his weaknesses, and just the fact that you're getting all the MR from the alt, right?
I mean, I will say in this meta, it's like not that good. Like, there's not that many AP comps running around, but I've definitely had success going this and like when like the lobby's AP and then he just goes infinite with like BT at 3-star.
Ooh, that's good.
But I mean, I barely ever see that, so it's probably fine to buff it.
Yeah, cool. The Jax one. So this is a solid buff. It made the augment better. Jax is still garbage, and so the augment looks bad. But this augment is now where it should be, and I'm happy with this buff.
Yeah, sure.
Vel'Koz, worst champion in the game, and I kind of want to keep him there because he's toxic.
Oh,
Uh, I don't
I
know.
hate Vel'Koz so much.
Yeah, so do I. I really do. I think this augment's still a bait though, and especially in a world of 4 rerolls, like we're gonna have to do something to like you're allowed to play this augment. So the buff didn't do enough.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Cool. The MF augment nerf. I think this was unnecessary, especially with the MF nerf. I think this was double overkill. Granted, it was a tiny nerf, so it didn't do anything anyway. Most of the power of this augment is the spread, the extra spread, and the extra range. But I think this was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can agree with that.
And then Syndra, this is another augment that like it's so hard to use that like nobody ever knows how to use it. I'll be interested to see if next patch, with the ability to like pick it, if it becomes better and people can actually like strategize around I'm gonna play this augment and do weird things with it. Because throwing in units with that much extra power is cool. Probably not still though, and it's like this is another one that like might just need a rework.
I did something really troll with this. I was playing Jax, and I had like a Riven 3 and a Nico, so I took this, and I Nico'd
Oh.
a Riven 1, so I could pull in a Riven 3 on my bench. I thought, and like I would just give it all the stats and it would be broken, but then it went fifth.
I'm glad you tried
Yeah,
that. But yeah, like the
yeah.
fact that you thought that would work and then it didn't is a great sign that like we need to make it better.
I mean, this was, I'm pretty sure it was before the buff, but yeah,
Still,
it feels hard to use,
10
for
armor
sure.
and MR isn't going to make that big a difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I'm brainstorming off the top of my head, but it'd be kind of fun if, like, they threw them in with items attached or something, you know. So, anyway, cool. Cruel Pact. So, this augment needed a nerf. This augment was wildly OP. This nerf was too big. I think the mistake here, and you're going to see this, we're applying this to Clear Mind and stuff like that next patch, but I think the nerf should have just been you don't regenerate health on PvE rounds. And that might have been a light nerf. It would have brought it from like 62 to probably like 57, but that would have been a better start. Because now the augment's bad, and having a fun augment like this be bad is not good. So it needed a nerf, but this was too far.
Yeah, I went probably from like best augment of the game to one of the
Mediocre.
worst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not. I mean, was it like 46 and 10? I think is the tactics if you look at it. But it's like for such a high risk augment to be 10% win rate, that's bad. That's real bad. So, all right. Items. Last bit. Radiant Hurricane nerf. Yeah, sure, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I have basically zero experience with Radiant items a set,
Yeah.
so it's kind of hard to get a good read on them.
Yep. I mean, data wise, they're looking more balanced. Radiant Spear of Shojin, same thing, great. The Anima Visage, I think this was another one that really helped with the mech problem. Anima Visage mech with 4% was nutty, so I'm calling this a win. I think this is great. So cool. Death Defiance, I think this was a win. I think this item is now actually like on par with Gunblade. I had a fun Fortune's Favor game where I had mech fiddlesticks with this, and it like actually felt good. So that's a win to me.
Oh yeah, this item seems so good now. I'm pretty sure it's like best in slot on like Zen and Bel'Veth.
Oh, sounds good to me. I
Yeah,
mean,
seems really strong.
an Orn item being better than the base item, we take those. So
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like, yeah, I don't think it needs to be changed, but it feels really strong now.
actually, here's a fun question for you. I already know my answer, but I'm curious. Uh, should Bloodthirster be 25% Omnivamp?
Yes, it should.
Oh, okay. So I was in the no camp. Like, it's a lot of healing. And having it be the same as Death Defiance feels a bit weird. So, but right now I know you're in the probably in the camp that's like, it's just so much worse than Gunblade. Why would you ever play it?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just my opinion, but
Yep. No, that's fine. I get it. Okay, Dragonclaw. This was a good nerf. Again, another thing that helped, I think, with the mech problem. And it lets AP comps maybe actually kill something. And AP comps are still a little weak. So I think this is a good nerf.
yep.
Cool. The Infinity Force thing didn't actually ship. That shouldn't have been in the patch notes. That's next patch. So, woohoo. And then Monozane, I think this was a good nerf too. This item was bonkers. Um, I think there are AP comps that I want to be good without this item, and in order for them to be good without this item needed to be nerfed. So,
Yeah. Even with the nerf version, I see a Menazin early, and if I have like rods and stuff, I'll just take it and like still play Talia. I think it's like one of the things that makes me want to play Talia, which is good, like even after the nerf.
yeah.
So I think it's fine.
Yeah, it is really fun with Talia with the Star Guardian because you're getting the extra mana. That's a fun one. And then finally, Collector, same thing. I think this is a good change. The item's still good at 2-1, which is where it was insane. It's still good. Healthy change. I'm happy with
Yeah,
this.
yeah, good nerf.
Cool. And that was it. That was the 13-1C. And like I said, overall, seems like we're in a spot where like I feel good about the champs and traits for the most part. And now we can shift our focus on things like the augments. Because I feel like the augments right now are the big like they're pretty wildly variant right now.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty excited for the four rolls.
yeah. I guess that's an interesting one. I hadn't thought of bringing that up here, but yeah, next patch is the 4 rerolls. I'll talk about it in the patch rundown, but for now, Dishsoap, what's your take on that?
Oh, I mean, like everyone else, like at first I was like, oh, this seems kind of crazy, but like I thought about it more. I listened like to your reasoning, and I'm pretty sure I think it's a good change. Because like I was like just playing in games, and I was just thinking to myself like, what if like the new rule system was in, and then like I was just like looking at my selections, like there was like a couple times where like I was like, oh, I'm in a really good spot to play Vi carry, but I got offered Spirit of the Exiles, and it's too good to, or it's too risky to reroll this, but I really want the Vi one, but I just can't. So I think like that change makes it so that you can like you don't have to take the safe option. You can take the one that's actually good, but it's not risky anymore. So I think that's like a very good positive to the change.
Cool. I'm kind of excited because I'll be streaming PBE this weekend, so I'll finally get to like really play with it. So should
Yeah.
be fun. So cool. Well, Dishsoap, thank you for coming. It's good to have you, and I know you and I got to meet at Summit, so it was the second time we
Yeah.
get to interact, and so that was fun. Hopefully you enjoyed your time here. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I mean, not really. It was definitely cool to be on here, for sure. But
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, good luck. I assume are you playing in Corrupted Cup?
Yep.
Sweet. So good luck in Corrupted Cup. I assume because you're ranked, you probably have the bye to the next day
Yeah.
or
I got yeah, I'm going to day three because it's top eight or whatever in the defender. So
nice. Cool. All right. Well, that's it for the postmortem. Let me know in the comments who you want to be our next guest. I actually have the next one already picked out, but after that, if you've got people you want to see on here, let me know. I'm also looking for players outside the NA region, especially. I don't want this to be the NA show. Give me players outside the NA region you'd love to see on here that really want to challenge and tell us how it went. So, cool. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.